or a different funeral home, then you could call them, Washburn or Greevy. If I say I want my dad to have a water cremation, and they say, well, we don't have that machine here, we have fire cremation. And I said, well, we don't want that, we want water cremation, can you help us? They can pay the people down in Savage, Jordan, to do this, and then, but they still serve the family. Like, they're the ones that make it happen. They can charge their price, whatever the price is down there, they charge whatever their price is. So it makes it really accessible for everyone, and you know, because some families do, or faith communities have, like, you know, some place, people get used to going to a certain place and they want to use that, so that funeral home. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I think Washburn is pretty
Well, you're big, and they have a lot of different ones.
So when they're smart to get lined up, they can't do it themselves.
Right, and for them, because they're the first call, Metro First Call, they don't have like gathering spaces, or they don't do the soft support that funeral directors do, right? Like help with an obituary, place an obituary, and understand, and you know, have a gathering space for family to come, or different, you know, things that funeral directors are involved in that way.
My family is a funeral director.
Oh, they are. You're interested in this topic and kind of pushing this around over
Well, and
here.
I am really fascinated with the whole natural thing of cremation and all that.
And so much is changing, right? Does your family still have that business?
They did consult to SCI.
Yeah.
And so Jason was explaining that to me, because they were small towns
In Minnesota, yeah.
in Nebraska. And so they sold, and I think they did well that way. And then within a few years, they were selling, SCI was selling back to other funeral homes around the area, but he said it just didn't work in the rural areas, I guess. That concept. It's good in the city, but not out in the suburban rural areas.
Well, and I've heard a story here, just in the last years, there's a funeral home, and they have two locations, one in White Bear and one in St. Paul, and they're just Mueller Funeral Home. Mueller, and there's several different, there's like Mueller's, Nielsen, Mueller Beast, whatever, this is just Mueller, and they're doing a natural kinds of more earth-friendly burial things, so they helped people have their body counted by flying the body out to Washington State, and then bringing some of the composted material home, or things like that. So they sold a number of years ago to SCI, and the family kept working there, and they found that the way that SCI wanted them to do their work was not, they didn't like it. They weren't able to continue working there because there was just like so many restrictions, and you have to do this and you can't spend so much time, and you have to do these things. They didn't like it, and so the person who sold it to them bought it back from them, and now they're trying to make it go as a family run funeral home again, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
They're dead.
Yeah.
Did you hear that one in Colorado that was so awful? What happened there?
Yeah.
Did the guy think he could do everything and he just couldn't? And
I don't
that
know.
was a horrible story.
It's a horrible story,
I
and
just,
yeah, and for you who you have a history as someone connected to the funeral industry, you know, my experience is like people really are trying to do good by the families they work with. They're serving, they really want to minister or, you know, tend to the families at that time of need. And so that's just so, and then people repeat that, you know, people remember that. It's like, well, are they really, is that really my person's feelings? And did they
the
really
stress of that. And then
right.
tell them everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I suspect that person is just either.
I think something mental must have happened and it just went down the tube or something.
Yeah. I mean, even like the ethical judgment of the person over here at, I just said, who's the big one, right by the Dama Casca, the big cemetery. You know, the big one where we all walk. It's really
Lakewood?
Lakewood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say girls on this. recycle material. It was like he was taking the titanium hips and the
Oh,
joints.
it was hard stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's what he was doing. It was, but still, he didn't have the permission, but he took it out of the cremation machine. So he took it out of there, so it wasn't like,
So they had cremated, that was still there.
yeah, because
Oh,
all
yeah,
those
so-
things. And so, yeah, exactly, well, I might as well, Lakewood isn't doing this, and Lakewood's like, well, actually, that's our property, that's our responsibility to tend to that body, and okay, you kind of understand, but that would have been a conversation with him, for him to have with them, and it should have been their income, right? Yeah.
It's so sad when something's set up and then it just goes south because some little worker bee
Yeah.
sees it differently.
Man, here's an opportunity.
Whoa,
Yeah, yeah,
opportunity here.
yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. Well, about 3 minutes. We'll see if a couple weeks ago, well, a month ago maybe, I went to the 9 o'clock service and they have a thing that you can express your own need and a woman just went on. And it was, everybody felt it, including her.
Yeah, oh, that happens at our church too.
And that cut into.
Sure, of course, of course. And you can't help that, people, like, I would imagine yours is like ours, like, a lot of lonely souls coming, looking for community and support, and they might really need a prayer that day, and they just get too pulled into their, their needy
And they just need it.
Yeah.
I don't know how that finally ended. I came in here, I think. I left before, because I was getting nervous about the time. I thought, oh my gosh, what's
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, well, you're singing, so that's probably your final song, so you should be okay.
Yeah, I tried to buy my hearing aid. I honestly can't hear out of my left ear, so I'm a little discombobulated. I can't wait to
Can
see
you usually hear out of both ears?
with
your
your
leg,
hearing
yeah.
aid. Yeah.
Oh, bummer.
So something is, I have
Maybe
neither.
just a flip switch, the audiologist can help.
Well, Bryce,
Hey, fine, how are you?
good, how are you?
I'm ready for some green information.
Give me some.
I'm Bryce and you are?
Hello, I'm Ann.
Hi, Ann. Nice to meet you.
Yes, and good to meet you too. Glad you came down.
No.
Yeah, were you just coming from upstairs?
No.
Down, or you're getting ready
From
for
my
lunch?
residence and
All right.
usually catch.
You don't
I'm a
listen to
second
us.
service kind of, I'm a traditionalist, so.
No, I don't know what the difference is
Oh, yeah,
between number
it's
one and number two.
it's informal, the early service and there's a jazz band.
Jazz music.
Jazz group.
Yes.
A lot of kids, a lot more of the families. It's great, it's
To the
great.
early ones,
Yeah, but the
yeah.
other one, I need the organ and I need choir.
Gotcha. And so the big choir is
Yeah,
there and
yeah.
all that, yeah.
Yeah. Where do you live?
I live in, not too far from here in Bancroft. I
and hopefully they'll. Thanks, Marilaurice. Okay, we are going to try to start. I hope a lot more people are still coming. I am Jane Cole on the Forum Committee, and welcome to everybody. For the presentation, if we're going to hold questions until the end, but be sure you're on a mic because we do Zoom or YouTube, and we need those questions to be heard by the remote people. So please remember to have a mic, and we'll bring you one. So last week we had a session on natural cremation, and this week it's about natural barriers and land conservancy. Two women, let's see if I can say her name correctly, Marilaurice, is that right, Mara? Hemlock, and Anne Archbold. What?
Marilaurice.
Oh, Marilaurice, excuse me. I've been practicing it, and I still said it wrong. Sorry. I know they're very dedicated to what they're doing. They are members, I think. Well, no, you're not necessarily members at Mayflower.
We are not, no.
You're not, okay. Good, okay, good enough. Well, anyway, so they're here, and I'm real excited for their presentation, and we shall now get started, and questions at the end, and go.
Thanks, Jane, and good morning, friends. Good to be here together with you. My name is Anne. It's just a delight to be able to share the good news of natural burial with you all. Yes. Yes, I'm Anne. I'm a social worker. I'm a funeral celebrant. I love worms. I'm a gardener. I love, who's a worm lover? All right. Oh, I should have brought my worm poem. I love it. I know, right? There's so much to love about the earth. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that. We're on topic. All right, so that's me. Who are you?
Who am I? My name is Marilaurice Hemlock, like it says there. I know. I am also a funeral celebrant. I'm retired from some church work. I'm a lover of the earth and oak trees, of water and swimming. And today I'm exceptionally delighted to be able to wear a sweatshirt to church, because I haven't done that in 40 years. So today also, the 17th of November, is my grandma's birthday. She was born on this day in, I think, 1880 something. So when I talk about burial and death, it reminds us of death, and that reminds us of people who have died. So in this season of saints and souls, I think we'll just take a moment to recall those who have died, those who are close to our hearts, who we remember especially in this season.
So Marilaurice and I are part of a national movement for promoting conservation, natural burial, and more earth-friendly after-death care. So we have two other folks who are joining us today, Shelley and Jay. They're also a part of our group. So we welcome them, and we welcome all of you here. Climate change is real. News flash, climate change is real, and we are growing our awareness about our place as humans in this circle of living and dying. And so we come to you with that. We are biased. We are biased toward what is best for the earth and the water and the creatures that we share this earth with. We're gonna, like Jane said, we're gonna save questions till the end. And it is 10 after 10, and we're gonna try not to talk too fast, but really leave some time for questions at the end. We have two short videos that we're gonna show you along the way. So we start with a brief land acknowledgement. We are on sacred land. This is Dakota land, historically and contemporary. The Dakota people and their lifeways we cherish. We say thank you, and we say we're sorry for the actions of oppression and genocide. We are committed to educating ourselves and our community about this land and our relationships with it. And as a group, our little group is working to establish some concrete actions with accountability structures. So that is where we're at right now on this sacred ground.
Talking about death is actually quite countercultural. Most folks avoid this until they are immediately faced with death. So we make choices every day, all kinds of choices about the clothes we wear, the foods we eat, the cars we buy, the prayers we say, what we do with our money, what we do with our bodies. All are influenced by our values, traditions, money, experiences in life, and we posit also in death. We have choices that we can make. So thank you for showing up today for this conversation. We have our first video is thanks to our Canadian friends at the Natural Burial Association. This is a very concise video that they put together, kind of an overview of natural burial. They've opened it for public use. You'll hear multiple references, especially toward the end, toward Ontario, which is where they are based. And one little translation note, 800 degrees Celsius is 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. Just keep that in mind.
If we told you your death could protect the earth and nurture new life, would you believe it? With natural burial, it can. Natural burial is one of the most eco-friendly ways of caring for our dead. Without the use of chemical embalming, we are laid to rest in a biodegradable casket or wrapped in a shroud, and our body contributes to the Earth's renewal. Natural burial grounds aren't at all like modern cemeteries. Rather than a manicured lawn with rows of tombstones, imagine a quiet forest or a wild meadow. Graves are marked by simple stones, native plants, or a communal dedication. However commemorated, the location of every grave is recorded. The people who run natural burial grounds ensure the land is restored and protected in its natural ecosystem. You might think, isn't cremation eco-friendly? Not at all. The body is incinerated at about 800 degrees Celsius for 2 hours, and carbon dioxide is emitted into the atmosphere. You might worry that scavengers will dig us up. We are buried too deep for scavengers. We feed the soil, not the wildlife. Nor do we harm the water. Just like modern cemeteries, natural burial grounds are regulated. We're often asked if natural burial is legal. Absolutely. Before funerals became commercialized, natural burial was the way many of our ancestors cared for their dead, and to this day, several faiths uphold the tradition. At natural burial grounds, we're invited to participate in the ceremony by laying the body to rest, filling in the grave, and decorating it. One guest wrote, "Everyone who attended has stated a desire to be buried here. The whole experience was perfect in every way." With nature as our teacher, being in its midst helps us see death as part of life. There is solace in knowing our loved one's last act is giving back to the earth. Today, there are hundreds of natural burial grounds worldwide, started by people with compassion for the planet and the families they serve. In Tennessee, Larkspur Conservation spans 112 acres of diverse forest and meadow. Every burial is an act of healing. In one of England's national parks is South Downs Natural Burial Site, where each grave is dug by hand to minimize environmental impact and to respect the area's tranquility. In BC, Catherine Valentine and Gavin Johnston created Salt Spring Island Natural Cemetery. As current stewards of the land, their mission is to restore the forest to one of giant Douglas firs. Salt Spring is Canada's only public natural burial ground that stands alone in nature, not attached to a modern cemetery. In Ontario, some cemeteries have sectioned off a natural burial area, but we believe our province is capable of bigger, wilder possibilities. Expansive sites that protect Ontario's beauty and offer people a final resting place in nature. The Natural Burial Association, a non-profit organization independent of the funeral industry, aims to bring this option to Ontarians so we can choose to leave a legacy of nature. Please lend your voice, share this video, and follow us on social media.
We here in Minnesota believe that we can create this as well here. We do not have this as an option. You talked about cremation last week with Jason Bradshaw. You talked about specifically water cremation, right? So they're talking about fire cremation, which is by far the most common method of disposition for the body right now in Minnesota and in other places. But we acknowledge that there are two kinds of cremation: fire cremation, water cremation. We're not going to talk about that anymore because you all are already experts on that. Or you got what you needed last week. We're focused on natural burial. So most times when we talk about burial, people think about conventional burial. We're today talking about natural or green burial. They can be used interchangeably, but because of the greenwashing that happens when we talk about environmentally friendly ideas, we tend to prefer natural burial. So we'll talk about it, but we'll use both. Two special mentions: whole body burial, whole body donation. That's a pathway, but it's kind of like a detour, because one way or another, if you pass through there, you got to be cremated or buried. Something has to happen with your body after the research is done. And the second one is, in Minnesota, human composting was just legalized. So we'll talk a bit about that at the end, and it's called natural organic reduction is its official name. I'm just going to leave it at that on those ones and just keep us moving along. So natural burial, 3 things. They talked about it in the film: no chemical embalming of the body. Whatever goes into the ground with the body is biodegradable, a casket, a shroud. And the third one, no vaults. Most vaults are made of concrete. You've probably seen them. There's no law requiring vaults in the state of Minnesota. That is just a cemetery practice because it helps them, with maintain the manicured lawns and the heavy equipment and such. So we know that we can do better. We call out people of Muslim faith and Jewish faith. Their religious practices favor natural burial. That is how most Jewish and Muslim folks are buried. It happens in Minnesota. And we also have some natural burial options here. And we're going to turn it over to Marilaurice to give more detail about some of that.
Okay, shades of green. There are more and less ways that one can honor the earth as you consider final disposition for your own body or for that of a loved one. So the lightest green option is a hybrid cemetery. So they are conventional cemeteries that also offer the option for natural burial. Sometimes it's a separate section in the cemetery, and sometimes it can happen right alongside. Say you've purchased a plot 20 years ago and someone has died to use it, and now that you've become enlightened, he's like, we have the plot, but I would like this instead of this. A hybrid cemetery will often allow you to be buried right next to your person in your family plot, or however that's laid out, in a natural way. So that's called a hybrid. In a hybrid cemetery, you will still see manicured lawns and headstones, flat or the monument size, all of that. So it will look like a cemetery, but the body is naturally decomposing into the ground there. So the benefits of it, of hybrid, are that they are located around the state. You can see some of the locations, metro locations on the slide. Also, there is a resource sheet for you to take if you wish, and it is listed there as well. We have those, so I won't go into that. And just a greater opportunity for people to be educated about a natural. And more conventional cemeteries, with the rise in cremation, I think we are 65% heading for an 80% cremation rate, just a common choice. Cemeteries are losing the burials because people often don't bring those cremated remains to be buried there. Cemeteries need to bury in order to keep their livelihood. So they have become more and more willing to consider the idea of a natural burial. And it is for us to advocate. So if that is a wish of yours and you have access to a family plot or something, to say, hey, I just learned this about, and I would like to be naturally buried next to my grandparents here. Can you help me with that? And often I think they'll say, well, let me talk about that, or let me dig into that, or they'll say no. But if we advocate and ask for ourselves and they start to see it as, this is a way we could get people in here. It's an industry, as well as it's a part of life, but it's also an industry and all those things. So they are looking at that. The second part, these are all the defined by these three categories, are defined by their certification with the Green Burial Council. So this is how they list them. So the second one is natural burial areas. They look a little more wild. You can see a little bit of that there. They are less manicured. They are committed to practices that cause no long-term degradation of the soil for plant diversity. They treasure the water quality as we do. They're often more spread out. The burials are less dense. A slide back, you saw those headstones right next to each other. A natural burial area might have them spread out more. And there are limitations often to the size of the marker. So if your vision is something tall and wide to mark your death, yeah, natural burial might not be for you. It's just a different way. So we have several, Minnesota has natural burial areas established, more on the way. There are some, we have in the metro area, and they're outside of Duluth and outside of Alexandria. So, as Ann said, part of a movement. This is becoming. Those of us who, try to ride our bikes and bring our reusable bags in life, we want that in death too. We don't want to undo the stuff we've tried to do. We'd like to continue that one last time with our burial. So again, questions, ask your questions. We the living have this moment to research, to be a good consumer. So you can call, you can go visit someplace that I'm looking into this. Tell me about costs, tell me about your practices, so you can be a good consumer that way. And conservation burial is the deepest shade of green. So there are 11 to date. There are 11 certified natural burial grounds, but there are none in Minnesota. And that is what we, who wear our green sweatshirts to church, would like to change. We would like for Minnesota to have a conservation burial area, and we would love for you to join us.
So conservation burial would have all those same things that we do with the body, but we're really shifting the attention to, and what happens to the earth, right? And that's one of our biggest pleas, is like, when can we humans recognize that we are a part of this big earth community? When can we learn that we are called to be partners? So conservation burial shifts the focus. So as you can see on the screen, what we would have is a natural burial. It looks like a nature preserve, and there is protection, a legal protection on that land, a conservation easement or a deed restriction that actually is held by a long-time conservation organization to make sure that that land, we remove the invasive plants, the non-native plants, we're protecting the water, we're increasing habitat for our animal friends that are there. So that is one of the big differences between what we're talking about in conservation versus a natural burial area, which would also have a tendency to look a little wilder, but this is a conservation idea.
And some of the practical ways that the earth is tended in a conservation burial area include things like sites that are selected outside of sensitive areas. So for protecting plant life or an animal migration thing. The areas around the grave, as people gather at the time of burial, is also considered. So if there are sensitive areas, those are roped off, and trying to walk with the earth and not just tread upon it. That we saw the reference to hand-dug graves. Backhoes are difficult on vegetation and on soil, so graves are often dug by hand. Not always, but always that consideration of what does this do for the earth, the digging, what does it do for the earth, the standing and gathering, what does it do for the earth, the state of the soil, will this body, the nutrients in our body, will this help to feed this soil that's in need? So the land first, basically, is the way. Again, it varies by place, but once a burial is complete, sometimes native plants and grasses are planted there to encourage them to grow in. Sometimes it's just let Mother Earth take her turn, whatever needs to happen. So in all these examples, it is that partnership to tending the land. And if the soil is in poor shape or the land, then it needs that attention. If it's in good shape, then it gets a little attention and on to the next spot that needs more attention.
In Minnesota, and especially this part of Minnesota, this is prairie land, right? And oak savanna. It was. We've done away with that. So we can work to restore that, which enables animals that want to live here to have habitat. The birds, there are so many prairie birds, right, that don't have a place to nest. They don't have a place. So many little creatures that need us to create this habitat and restore. So in a natural burial area, there are often grave markers. Sometimes it's a GPS marker that's not visible. Sometimes it's a native field stone, like you saw in the little video with the name on it. Sometimes a slice of wood from a downed tree with a name engraved on it, something small. But usually, erosion happens, the stones will be absorbed and the wood pieces will be like that. But we will remember, there will be memorialization. We just don't know here how exactly that's going to be. Beautiful. Another part of conservation burial, natural burial, that is significant to mention is how this helps us as humans with healthy grief. Like being able to connect to those natural rhythms of living and dying of the earth. It's a beautiful experience that Robin Wall Kimmerer, the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, wrote, "We are dreaming of a time when the land might give thanks for the people." May it be so, right?
In this time of Thanksgiving, when the land might give thanks. Our second little video clip is a burial at Larkspur, outside of Nashville, Tennessee. We saw a little clip of that before. It's about 4 minutes long and lovely. This is the end of a longer presentation called Bury Me at Taylor's Hollow. And it's a documentary that was on TPT a few months ago. So if you are a TPT donor, it is still available online. You could watch it in its entirety. Taylor Hollow.
To hear your name and recognize you as my sit down in your arms, wrap me in wonder, keep me safe and strong. I want to hear your name and feel a hum within my bones. Bury me beneath our home. I want to hold you till we see the light. Wrap you in wonder, kiss you every night. I want you to look at me and see yourself. I want to love you and no one else.
These kind of properties, you know, you feel like with your loved ones you had no control in the end. But then when that pivots and they're free, to find a place like this where we know, like, this is what you would want. We are returning you to where you started. We are giving you beauty and nature and a spiritual experience with the world, with the planet that he loved so much. He's here, and I'm just grateful, you know?
Wrap me in wonder, keep me safe and strong. I want to hear your name and recognize you as my own. Bury me beneath our home.
I invite you to take a few slow breaths and let what we saw sink in a little bit. If you have a word or a phrase that would name your reaction to that, we'd love to hear that. If you speak it, I will try to repeat it for our friends. How do you, what sits on your heart after saying that? Beautiful?
Peaceful.
Peaceful? First time I saw it, I was a little bit afraid they were going to leave that guitar there. And that was like, oh, no, that they took it with them. So talking about it and being a little bit of a part of it are sort of different things for us. So thank you for that. So just in anticipation of a possible question, Ann talked about that we had the two routes and then two kind of add-ons, and that is following up on natural organic reduction, NOR. So legal in 12 states, including Minnesota as of May 2024. A start date of July 1, that it is legal for the practice of it in the state of Minnesota. And it is a fast-growing option. And the process uses large tanks or containers of some sort, some kind of similar vessel to hold the human remains, along with straw, wood chips, other materials, as if you were composting in your backyard. You would have the brown material, the green material, some water, those sorts of things. The body needs to be turned from time to time as we turn our compost, all of those. So that the the bones are reduced in the same way as they are in the cremation process, which is they are separated out and ground down. So we know that by fossils and all of those things that we can find, the earth does not take bones back lightly. So we have to help along with that. So the process, a lot of conversation about that, and if you're interested, you can certainly Google a little bit and see who's doing that in the metro area. The people excited about it are really excited about it. It certainly fits in the green. In our biased, as we mentioned, opinion, it is one of the shades of green. It's greener than some, but it isn't. In our minds, there is nothing as green as being simply wrapped in a shroud and laid into the earth without technical consideration or any of those other pieces. But it is a green thing. All right. I get you.
Yeah. So this is us, land conservation, natural burial. We're a little before. We'll have 10 minutes about, and then at the end, we'll kind of wrap up with a couple other last phrases. But this is how to find us. Marilaurice mentioned there's a resource list over there. So we wonder, what has this stirred in you? Did you come with questions and we didn't make it to answer them? What questions do you have? We'd love to hear. Yeah. I'll repeat. There you go.
Oh, it's beautiful and very appealing to me, but I noticed that the access is mainly for able-bodied people. Is there a way, would there be paths or access for someone who was in a wheelchair or for someone who was grieving and wanted to come and visit if they weren't, if they were older?
Yeah, great questions. So we don't have a burial ground here yet, but our vision is that they would be accessible. Imagine a nature preserve, right? So perhaps there are wood chip trails. Perhaps at a burial, we could use a little golf cart or some other kind of transportation method to help people who have challenges with mobility get to the gravesite. So imagine kind of like that. And imagine perhaps, how different parks or nature preserves have different layers of accessibility. So some grave sites, I would imagine, might not be as accessible to people who have challenges getting around. But perhaps there are some paths and trails that are more developed so that people could go and be near, but not right at the grave. Those are things that I could imagine in my mind and I've seen in other natural burial areas. Yeah, thank you.
I was once way ahead of you, and now I'm way behind.
Oh.
When we moved here in '75, I bought a plot in Lakewood Cemetery. I want to talk about Lakewood specifically because, it was the way state of the art. I mean, non-denominational. Remember when we all had Jewish cemeteries and Catholic and Protestant and non-racist? It's an incredible place and utterly beautiful. But I lobbied the board some years ago without much success about getting rid of the vaults. My dad was in the concrete business, by the way, but he was a fan of those, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I actually have my own casket already. My funny friend, Peter Kramer, designed something called a basket, a combined bookshelf casket.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I brought it home and I took pictures of me, and the kids said, "Dad, you want to be buried in your books?" I said, "No, take the books out and put me in it." But I really want to be tucked into Mother Earth. And have you guys talked to Lakewood, or can I help you make a presentation? Because there must be a way where they would have a section, for example, in Lakewood. I don't know if you've tried to climb that hill, because I did it many years ago, and I think things have changed quite a bit.
Yeah. Marilaurice, do you want to answer that? You look like you had a smirk. No? Yeah. You're not the only one that has spoken with Lakewood about this as an option. And as I mentioned, there's nothing keeping them from doing it but their own political, financial will, right? So it would take more advocacy, more conversation, more consumer input pressure to actually make that happen. If you have some access, I think they have the information. They are well informed. They have so many, as you say, it is a beautiful space. The trees that are there are amazing. You know, it would be wonderful. That's what I can say. Yeah, don't give up. Because there's such a historic cemetery, you know. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they could make a mark and say, yeah, not only are we, you know, and you all probably noticed we didn't say this out loud, but the sequestration of carbon that's a huge deal, right? That we're putting it in, giving it back, instead of putting it up with toxic emissions, right? Creating carbon and all that. So, I think it's time for Lakewood to jump in this with us. Yeah.
So I grew up with a conservative family. I would love to have this done, but I see that the people, there were people that actually lowered the body and, you know, really participated.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have to have a team signed up in advance to do this? Because I would certainly tell my family this is what I wanted to do, but then I can't force them to participate. So what happens if nobody steps up and says, we're not going to do that? So then what?
Yeah, I hear you. It is one of the great parts about natural burial is it does invite family engagement. So if your family is a bit reticent, I would recommend talking about that with them now. Just asking, and it's amazing. People arrive fearful and kind of, never done this before. And once they come and they feel the connection, they feel the beauty. People surprised, like some people say, no, my family will never want to fill the grave in. And then they're the ones that have the 10 shovels and the kids are doing it and they're decorating the grave and they're all engaged. And afterwards they're sweaty and they're tired and they're like, oh, that was good grief. You know, that was healing like that. So I can't speak to your family specifically, but I would say having the conversations in advance and letting them know that this would be your wish. And then letting the people at the cemetery, if you choose to do this, know that I'm not sure how my family's going to deal with this. And some natural burial, actually resurrection here in the Twin Cities south of St. Paul, they actually prefer that cemetery staff lower the grave. They don't yet allow. They're going to, I think, with a liability waiver, but they're kind of managing in that way. Yeah. Exactly.
It's kind of an actual job for pallbearers. They're kind of cosmetic, right? You don't really do much in this day and age, maybe a hand on it or whatever. This is an actual job. This is an actual thing. And so to go into the next generation or the next generation, strong backs in strong arms kind of thing, this is an actual piece, and people are honored to be asked to be pallbearers often. This is a stretch for it. You'd have to be of a good physical state, but I think there are ways, and if they know you want it, that's the thing. If you make the plan, and we're trying to honor, this is what you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I find this very appealing. Lakewood would be my choice, but it's not going to be in my time possible. I know that. So I'm interested. I'm going to pursue further Oak Hill. It's in South Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
It's right across from the Bachmans, the big Bachmans down there on Lindale and 60th, I think.
I didn't know that was the name of it.
Yeah.
So if I wanted more information about that particular site, I could go to their staff or office and just follow through.
Yeah, and that's a natural, that would be, in what Marilaurice talked about, that would be a hybrid cemetery.
What I'm thinking.
Yeah,
that's where I am.
That's an option.
At this point.
And I would suggest going around and visiting the places and see what vibe you get. You know, the other Resurrection looks totally different than Oak Hill. Yeah. It's a Catholic cemetery. They will bury anyone who shares their vision. And they have a big prairie So they have tall grass, they do prescribed burns, they have prairie flowers, they have bees in the back that take advantage. So that's a beautiful area as well. You might just, check it out. That's in Mendota Heights, right, Marilaurice? Not Invergrove Heights, Mendota. I think it's just right south, when you go over the bridge by the airport there, it's just right south on Lexington.
It's called Resurrection.
Resurrection Cemetery. Yeah. Any other curious souls out there?
I was just going to ask if you're going to talk about kind of what are next steps and where we're going.
Yeah. So let's do that. Let's do that now. So this little group, we're small, we're loud, we're mighty. Sometimes we're mighty, but we're always brave. And we have a quarterly newsletter we would love to send you. We only send 4. We're all volunteer. We don't have paid staff or anything like that at this point. Linda is over there, another member of our group. I forgot to introduce you, Linda from Mayflower. She's been Jane's main right-hand organizer here. So yeah, Linda is a part of our group. So we have a sign-up sheet there, a couple of paper resources. If you take those, you go to our website. It's super easy to sign up. And what Shelley wants us to tell you about is we need help. This is a huge deal, like getting land and then all the conservation partnerships that we need. So if you know of a group where we can go talk to them, tell us about it. We'd love to go talk to other groups, whatever, faith communities, civic organization, conservation groups, master naturalists, whoever. If they're interested and have an open heart, we want to tell them about this. We're in the composting and scattering seed moment of our endeavor, okay? If we're gonna give it a little time frame like that. And we know that it takes a long time to get rich soil, right? To make that. What else do we want over there? We want conservation organizations with whom we can partner. Are you a member of the Nature Conservancy? Do you know somebody there? We're trying to contact all these people. The Friends of the Mississippi River, they do land conservation. Minnesota Land Trust. There are many, many groups doing conservation important work. Nature centers, we need contacts so that you can introduce us and that we can come and talk to them and help with that. We need people who know people who have expertise in conservation. We need legal support. Of course, it's going to take a lot of that. So if you know a lawyer who really needs to do some pro bono work and they have experience in land and real estate, conservation, we would love to know them. Cemeteries, yeah, all that kind of stuff. We will need money. Of course we'll need money. We'll have to do geological surveys. We'll do an archaeological survey if the land already hasn't had one to find out what of cultural significance is there for our Dakota relatives. We don't want to, dig up stuff that is sacred or that isn't where we should be. So those are all some of our needs. We have lots of needs and we have gifts too. But those are some of our things. If you want to get more engaged, call us. If you want us to go if you get a meeting with Lakewood and you want us to come, we'll go ahead and, share information and we're happy to help. Yeah.
We are surrounded by death, dying, and grief in these times. So this is the time to have conversations. So here's a group having a conversation there. Brave conversations. And we would love it if you would let us be the start. Like after church on Sunday, I went to this crazy talk about, let us be your pathway in. And we're coming up in a season of where we'll gather around with family members and friends. And I picture it on Thanksgiving right before the pie. Right before the pie, you bring this up, and then you go on to the sweetness. But your families, bring it up, whenever you need to, during the stuffing, I don't know what. But to have these conversations and that's a countercultural part, except that it's every day. We see it every day. The earth is showing us right now how to let go and how, in our season, what we've done. So again, it's values, all the things that we talked about, the values, the culture of your family, the culture of society, all the things that you need to take into consideration as you make these choices. Certainly something will happen. You will not just be left in the lazy boy. I guarantee it. Something is going to happen to your body when you're done using it. And if you want to say in it, then you plan it and you talk about it with folks so that they have an idea. That is your thing. So we're all going to die. It's inevitable. So why not use this inevitability to support an abundance of more life? And this is one of our favorites. We are all just walking each other home. Amen. Hallelujah. We're done.
And thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All of you, all three of you, thank you so much. Linda was just a wonderful contact for me, member at Mayflower, and they're active with this group. Next week is November 24th. The Public Church Framework, which is kind of a new concept, I think, around here. Christian Fruge is with Augsburg, has done a project with Augsburg. And we had members, Nina Johnson, Jean Tracy, Teresa Voss, will share what they learned over 2 years and what it means for Plymouth. So the concept of the Public Church Framework next week. Thank you again so much. Just really appreciate all of your good contributions. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.